What's good, people? My name is Doug, and thank you for downloading this episode of Radio Juxtapoz. Coming up in this episode, myself and Evan are in conversation with the Iranian brothers Saman and Sasan, more commonly known as Icy Sot. We all happen to be in town together at the same time, so we thought, let's utilize this opportunity to grab a couple of beers, a bottle of mezcal, and chat some nonsense. If you happen to live in or near Lisbon in Portugal, make sure you head down to Vils' Underdogs gallery from May the 24th to check out Icy Sot's latest exhibition, Faces of Society. Finally, I just want to say thank you to Tina from Monica for facilitating this whole thing, and thank you to you for listening once again. Enjoy the episode.
So we are now coming to you live from my Manhattan flat. Sort of. An Airbnb in Manhattan. So it's myself, Doug, and Evan, today joined by the Iranian brothers Icy and Sot. Because we're sitting in this Airbnb, it's not the best audio setup that I've ever worked with, so we're going to do our best to try and work through this. So look, thank you for taking some time. I guess we've got the mezcal here. Let's get stuck into that. What is it that you guys love about mezcal so much?
I don't know. It's our kind of favorite liquor recently. It's not a downer. It gives you energy. So, like, I guess we have a lot of energy. We want to be active, do a lot of things. So that's why.
I like that you're saying energy as opposed to it gets you drunk. That's a good. It's Red Bull.
Yeah, I mean, it's like whiskey makes you downer, but like the mezcal is just it's an upper liquor.
Right. So you guys have been in New York for how long?
We've been here almost 7 years, right? Yeah.
Wow, that's a fair amount of time, and you are now in the process of going full American, aren't you?
Let's see. We don't know. I mean, we applied it, like last November, but right now it's like everything is taking longer. So.
But not like American, really. Just basically getting the passport to be able to travel too easily. That's yeah.
If you're listening to this, customs officials, they really do believe in the country's morals and values.
So 7 years. I mean, that's a significant time. That's kind of like that home in a way. Do you feel like this is home now?
Yes. I mean, we felt it like, I think first year we moved here because like we moved here for good. It's like it feels like a family, like different communities, like a lot of friends, like artist friends, musician friends, or people that we party with, or so this is like home. Yeah.
So let's pull it back then to before here. You guys are from. It's not even like just outskirts of Tehran, are you? You're from like quite a bit out of Tehran.
No, we're from Tabriz. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I mean. Quite a bit out of Tehran, which is a completely different city.
Yeah, I mean we're from northwest part of Iran, Tabriz. Like we were born there and we kind of grew up there, but we used to go to Tehran a lot. Like we used to do most of our work there. But it was like before that, starting like with skateboarding. Like we had a lot of. So Tehran basically is the like. Yeah, capital, but also like starting point for like a lot of like this music scene, like for artists, like everybody basically, even from different cities, like whoever is doing it, they go to Tehran and like you kind of become part of this family. And
so and this is where I was kind of getting mixed up because we talked about this before, and I remember you have you speaking about that connection with Tehran, and I remember it being like it was you would have to really make an effort to get to this center of where this culture was happening. How far is it? It's like an overnight bus journey kind of thing.
It's like an 8 hours like drive. So we used to take the like bus at like midnight and like be there in the morning and just like go. Sometimes we used to go there only one day and take the bus back to Tabriz. So it's like, but sometimes you used to stay and you skate, and it's like 8 hours with a bus. Like and it's pretty nice to have.
So what was it then that was pulling you into this to go and be part of this thing that was going on? What was it? Skating? Was it art? Was it the music? What was it that you were kind of going down, making this journey for?
We had a lot of friends there, like skate friends and like musicians. So, but also we want to do work over there in Tehran because there's so many people. I mean, not so many, but people. There was some other artists they were working there, so it was the best place to do it there, Tehran, and just like.
And what were those describe what those cultures are like in Tehran. Like, what is if you can, like, what's the music scene like? What's the skating scene like? What were like some of the unique features of those scenes there that are different than what they are here? Perhaps.
Like, right now, I don't exactly know what's really going on because it's been a while and a lot of things has changed. But like back then, it was like a lot of like there was basically this park called like we called it Frog Park or Baghe. That was the center of basically like kids like smoking. Like you walk into the park, like you smell the weed hash or like all these kids like like kind of like teenagers or like older ones and who are into like skateboarding, music, artists. Like everybody kind of used to hang out and or the punk scene like. It's basically that was the heart of the like every night you go there and you see a bunch of people hanging out there.
Yeah,
Or,
everything is started from there. Probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
like the
Park.
lot of things. Yeah, the music or like the art scene or
Skateboarding.
graffiti. Like everybody has like kind of like from different cities, whatever they ended up there because of
Everybody had
that
a
small scene.
nickname.
Everybody had a nickname, like because these kids like you just walk in, they just give you a nickname.
Their real name.
Yeah, everyone had a nickname still now.
So is this? I guess this then leads me into how I assume this is the park that you became Icy and Sot in.
Yes, I mean because we couldn't. First of all, we couldn't use our real names because we used to put
But it
Billy
didn't
Pork.
happen in the park.
Yeah, it didn't happen in the park, but before we couldn't use our real name, so we used to have a nickname. So that's why we couldn't put our real name on the street. So we came up with the Icy and Sot, right? Like simple, like short. Yeah.
It's funny that you describe the way that you describe particularly this park. It sounds like something that would be something really familiar for a lot of people from the Western world. This is kind of a regular scene, but for many people from the Western world, when we say Iran, we wouldn't necessarily make that connection to something that felt quite free, quite open, quite liberated, quite young.
I think what you're getting at too is like it would feel like so underground culture. Like it would you like really, but like you're not. It's the way you're describing is like it's not. It wasn't. It's underground, but it's not like in a cellar somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it was underground. Like our like musician friends, they had like they used to play music in the basement of their house illegally and invite only people they know.
So there was the literal underground.
Yeah,
side.
okay, yeah, okay.
No, but like yes, the park was like even like the people who used to work in the park, they knew about like everyone knew like just like just a bunch of kids like
Was there a risk that was coming with even just participating in any of this, to be seen in that park, or to look a certain way, or was Tehran? Is my maybe my Western view of how Iran would have been. Is it skewered, or was it still quite strict, and there was actually a risk that was coming with just being seen out skateboarding?
No, I mean it was pretty chill. Like it's like the most like you just go there and just hanging out all day, sitting in the grass. Like people, well, like the same thing I explained. Like skaters are like skating or like we would bring our like weird alcohols that we drink there. It's like yeah.
Wait, that you guys were making, right?
No, it was like
No.
this alcohol. Yeah. So they used to sell this alcohol like under like table, like was like 95% alcohol, ethanol. So we used
But
to
it
mix
was
it with
it was like no plant based whatever.
Yeah.
Something drinkable,
drinkable,
whatever.
yeah.
It
Oh, it
was,
was vegan.
but it was vegan, yeah.
So actually, you guys are ahead of the time on that curve.
Yeah,
That was-
seriously.
Yeah, then later on, like we start making our own beer and stuff, because they use like a non-alcoholic drink. So we used to buy those and like add sugar and like yeast, and like after 1 week we had beer. Like
So it sounds like there was quite a lot going on there. A lot of like what we've definitely talked about before is the idea of a DIY culture, where you're like, okay, we see this, but we don't want that. We want to have something else. And was it just an element of everyone was like, look, if it's not being provided for us, if we don't see it, we're just going to go out and do it ourselves. We're going to make our own alcohol because we want to have a good time. We're going to make our own, we're going to change the way that we see the streets and things like that. Was there quite a vibrant scene of people that were really kind of like actively engaged with doing whatever it was?
Like people like you talk about it and they're like, oh, these rules, whatever. Like people think. Like, I mean, sometimes some people they think like people like ride on camels, whatever. But it's like not very different than like the Tehran. There's a lot of things happening there too. There's a lot of crazy parties or like same drugs that you can find in New York, you can find there, or like similar parties, similar things. But yeah, I guess with all the things happening with the government, with all the rules that, like alcohol is illegal, whatever, but that doesn't mean that people don't drink there. So it's like weed is illegal in New York, but everybody has a dealer. Like same thing in Iran. Like
What's the kind of give me an idea then of what the, at least at that time, maybe not specifically now, what would be a punishment for being caught, drunk or selling beer or something like that? What's your
I don't know. Like it
I
depends.
guess like lashed. You can get lashed.
But if you're
Yeah, I guess if you got like with alcohol, but you're
Selling it.
selling it, or you get lashed and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, it's fine. Most of the time, you probably just pay them like some whatever, and it's done. Or pretty chill. I mean, there was times that they were strict, like more strict about like alcohol, but now it's like
New York may not be the place where everything starts, but it's kind of the place where everybody who kind of has some sort of you can argue graffiti started here. You can argue skate culture started in a way here. There's lots of different things that New York can kind of argue being the capital of, but at least it thrives here in a certain way. Like, were you guys was the idea to come to New York because the things that you liked, you knew was thriving in the city, or is it just like, well, no, New York just sounds cool. We're just gonna go to New York.
Oh, yes, me.
Yeah, of course. Like there was that, like, but also like our goal was like when we started, we had no idea that we're gonna move to any other country because of what we're doing, because we're just doing like what made us happy, and like we didn't start as an artist. Like we're just doing things that makes us happy or just gets express ourselves. And yeah, then like we were working more and more, and it was just getting hard like to be an artist, or especially street artists put works in the streets, because you put work up and they clean it the next day, or like we were in trouble, like, or like even if we're doing a non-political piece, if you get arrested, like
well, the simple act, and that's what makes it interesting.
Yeah,
that the simple
yeah.
act of doing it becomes a political statement,
Yeah.
whether it's anti-government or
Exactly.
not.
Yeah,
It's
because
just doing it.
it's not a thing that they've seen, or it's been part of culture.
So staying on that thread, then, what was it that got you into doing work in the public? I mean, was there a bunch of people doing it? Was it you guys that just felt something? Was it seeing, another artist? What was it that got you out there?
Yeah, who's like the Banksy of Iran?
How many times have you been called the Banksy of Iran?
There's no Banksy of Iran.
Okay, there's not like the Don D or the Banksy. It kind of is like, oh, that's the godfather of the scene.
No, I mean there was older artists who started like in Tehran actually before us. Like did Avon like few years before us. Like they were CK1. We have a bunch of friends that they were doing this before, and like when we started in our hometown, like for us, like we didn't really start as a like street artist. Like we started with like skateboarding, like making small stickers, and then we just with, like it's for us kind of started with skateboard culture, because we see it in skate videos or like skate games, whatever, Tony Hawk games. You put a sticker.
Yeah, it was a Tony Hawk game you used to play, and like
Put a
you make
sticker.
your own like costume
Stencil.
sticker stencil, and just like when you're skating, just put it up in the playing game. Yeah, I guess that's like we started making our own stencils, stickers, and
Yeah, we just did like random things and like make some logos, and we just put in our skates or in the streets, and then like we got to know about the scene, and then we got more interested, and we started doing like single layer pieces, and then we see like we painted them, they painted over, like, so we like started to talk about censorship, and because like it was just wanted to make us to do more when they were just painting them over, or they were cleaning them, or it was like however, we just like wanted to do it more, and like that was kind of the thing. Like we just wanted to talk about the censorship, why they're censoring this, like why. And
It's so funny that skateboarding this thread has gone. It's like all of a sudden popped up the last couple talks. Like we like kind of almost avoided talking about skateboarding culture in relation to street art for like the last couple podcasts, but like the last couple of conversations we had, it's like related back to like that skateboarding being like the seed that gets people to start thinking about the city differently. And like we hadn't talked about that before, but I like that it's being brought up.
It's been brought up, especially here in New York, where it's come up at least. I think Carlo mentioned it as well. So we're on like 3 out of 3. It's become part, and it's just this idea of suddenly becoming comfortable and looking at things in a different way that perhaps you weren't before. There couldn't have been too many people going out doing what you were doing. How easy or hard was it then in that to remain anonymous and to not be suddenly like, oh, it's those guys? Because I imagine, as we kind of loosely talked about, the risks of being caught doing that would have been, you know, if you're going out doing anti-corruption, anti-government statements or something like that, then that comes with some kind of risk. So how easy was it to remain hidden?
I mean, I guess, I don't know, like, we just
always
did
have to-
whatever we wanted to do. Like, we
Yeah.
didn't care.
You weren't overly worried.
But we always had to be careful. We used to find the spots, and we were two. So one of us we used to watch as nobody's coming, or we used to go like Friday morning because the Friday is a holiday in Iran. It's like in the morning everybody's sleeping, nobody's like going to work. So just like Friday morning was the best day to just go put work up, you know, on the streets.
Yeah,
That's-
we used to study spots before we go put work. Like, you know, we were doing it safe. Like, we had to be safe. Like, we didn't wanna. I mean, like, things happen, but I guess we were lucky. We also kind of like learned how to deal with those like crazy people, because they kind of have no idea. Like, some people that they don't know anything, and you can just, just whatever. You can either like be paid sometimes to get through some stuff, whatever, and like like we had a show in Amsterdam, and we were in big trouble in Iran. Like, we just sold a bunch of work. We got a lot of money, and like basically we wrote a big check for this court. Like, the judge, like through a connection, and it was fine. We got rid of everything. Like, they were putting a red label on us, so we couldn't even like leave the country if we got that. But like, we just boom, yeah.
Amazing.
I love it.
So, when was the last time you were there? Home.
Yeah, 7 years ago.
Yeah, when we left.
Yeah. And can you maybe just explain a little bit about that backstory, how that came around, how you are now in that position, and how that maybe feels a little bit further, not being able to go
you
back?
asked about like how we like I didn't finish that question because you continued like why we moved to New York, why we chose New York, but
I didn't want to get into it quite away. I wanted to jump in and go back a little bit, but yeah, no, I think we're there now.
Yeah.
we were like kind of done. It was really hard to grow as an artist, and we knew, we were aware of it. We're not really, it was really hard, and it was super stressful to just continue and like do shows, even like, and traveling things. It was really hard, so we just decided to like leave. Like, that was our goal, to leave Iran, like be based somewhere else, and it just kind of happened to be New York because a bunch of our friends moved here, and like we just planned the show, and we got the visa, and we're like, okay, this is it. We're in New York. Yeah, we're gonna
You
stay.
got a one-way ticket, and like we just like apply for political asylum. So
Well, okay, so
I like
For-
that you can just the fact that you can say we applied for political asylum. So
Yeah,
like,
I know, I mean, it's like-
oh
it's
yeah,
like-
like you
No,
know,
but
I got up, I went to the shop, I got some bread, and then I just applied for political asylum.
and I know you guys have probably had to answer this so many times, but was coming from Iran, getting political asylum in America, was it easy? Was it under the Obama years? Was it different than the Bush years? And yeah,
was it?
yeah, okay. I mean, I don't want to make this into like a super flip, but you
It
know what I
wasn't.
mean. Yeah.
It's
That
not
too.
easy to get a political asylum, but it's like it's a lot of process. You need to have a. I mean, getting visa. First of all, getting visa is hard to get a visa, and that's the first thing. It took us like a 1 year process. We had a lawyer here. We had to because we were having a solo show here. And then when you get the visa, like asylum is like you have to, before your visa get expired, you have to apply for political asylum. But for that, you have to have a reason. And we had a bunch of reasons. We got arrested, like stuff. So
Yeah, we had a strong case, so it was easy. Like, we had proof of a lot of things, so like it was
Go
like
on.
it was easy. Yeah, we got it.
What things?
I mean, we were in prison, like we were in we were arrested, and basically, like we had the court papers like translated, so there was proof of we were in prison there, and for no reason, basically we were in prison for no reason.
So essentially, what you're saying is to people from Iran that are listening to this, get in prison, and America will take you in.
Well, maybe-
or at least Obama America would
Yeah, I
have
was
taken
gonna say
you
Obama
in.
America.
Trump
maybe.
America.
I mean, it's impossible to do this anymore. Like, you can't like as a young artist, as a young person from Iran, like you can't really get a visa anymore.
Do you still sort of keep checks on how the that scene is doing? Do you still see people coming through, and do you still pay attention to that in any respect? Do you still know what's going on in Tehran.
Of course, yeah. Like we see everything, like our friends, but it's crazy that like it has changed so much. Like pretty much, like most of our friends, like street artists, they've moved out. Like they're in different places. Or a bunch of our good friends that we used to work together, they live in Turkey now. The scene is not so active like it used to be in a couple of years ago.
Really? Do you think it's died down, the scene, that underground reactionary?
No, it's still going on. But like I was just like mentioning, like a lot of like street artists, like most of them, they kind of like moved and doing works around the country. But it's harder. But like for example, like a lot of like skate scene that I follow, like I see a lot of skaters. It's insane now. Like I follow these kids, and like there's so many skate parks, and skate has grown so much. Like
Do you see them doing things you couldn't have imagined happening in your
Iran?
Yeah, you didn't have,
Never.
you didn't have a skateboard. You never played. I mean, skate parks. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
No, back then when like Sasan used to skate, there wasn't any skate parks. I mean, it was like small, but after that, like after we moved out, it was like they imported this big skate park from Germany, like already made concrete, and it's like big, and there's a lot of
in Tehran there is more and better skate parks than New York.
Brooklyn. Yeah.
Yes, it's insane.
Wow, that's a bold statement, but I'm one I probably
Sure. Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
prepared
I
for.
like it. I like
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I'm not going to challenge you
Yeah,
on it.
no.
No, they're like right now, but like yeah, there's like really big, nice skate parks there. Yeah.
Let's talk about the art. Let's talk about your career as artist. And when I first became aware of your work, it was you were doing a lot of stencil work at the time. And then obviously we can get into like the transition that you guys have made recently. But when you you got yourself into New York, where you're like, okay, well now at least we have the art capital of the world. There's so much stuff going on. Like, what were sort of like the scenes that you kind of initially gravitated towards? Was it kind of like the other street artists that kind of around, or was it kind of like you're like, oh, this is going to open up the floodgates to so many things we're interested in?
Did you find you were hanging out with people from back home when you got here?
No, I mean like first week, like we were like hanging out with a bunch of artists from here, and we're like the next week we were painting together, and like some people even we were in also kind of new online, like Christine, like a bunch of stencil artists from Flickr. We kind of knew each other work, they knew our work, so it was really nice. Like we were actually in a show when we moved here. like we sent the works from Iran. There was this print show in the city. Like the show opened like before we were here, so we just went to check the show. And there's a bunch of Shariak. Like we met them, like Christine, like and like everybody painted the basement. Like but they left us a spot, so we painted a piece there too. So it was like really quick. Like we had some we knew each other work, so like we had some artist friends kind of online that we knew each other work, so yeah, it was really nice. But
So there was automatically a little family here that was maybe
Yeah, it's
opened
kind of-
up.
yeah, that's what I was getting
That
at,
was
yeah.
essentially opened up because of the connectivity of the internet.
yeah, and it was amazing. Like I mean, it has changed now, but back then when we moved here, like it was super. Like everybody was kind of like street art scene was little active, and a lot of people were putting a lot of works in the street, and everybody like a lot of people supported us. Like
Yeah, but right now it's like, I mean, back then it was more people used to put more illegal works up, and it was different scene now. It's like some artists they moved out from the city and they just work in different.
So you-
everybody doing their
place-
thing, kind of.
So
Yeah,
you guys
right.
are now in the stage where you've not necessarily just seen Tehran change, Iran change. You're at that place where you're like, I remember Brooklyn 7 years
Yeah,
ago.
New York, yeah, street art scene have been changed. Yeah, now everything is like more commission, like artists are painting like in the restaurants, in the the hotels walls and stuff.
Do you ever feel that you want to go back to something that was maybe got that same raw energy that you first experienced, or you? Can't?
No, I mean, no.
It was really nice, like that was happening, but like it's not gonna every time it's like everything changed, like the generations, like we grow up, or like the artists, like or like New York changes a lot, and like each person changes a lot, or like so I think it's not the same, yeah, because some artists are in Detroit now, that in the same group, some Newark, some in Philly, some like.
You don't
Pretty
see
much all over
yourself.
the
You don't
world.
see yourself following that trend, that curve, and being like, okay, I need to chase this. I need to chase this. You're like, okay, cool, I'm sailed.
Chase what?
Chase that fresh, that moment that you can feel when you go to a place. I felt it when I first went to London. I felt that I was like, I'm here, and there's something going on. I don't necessarily know what it is, and maybe I didn't realize at the time, but as I got older, I was like, that was definitely a thing.
Yeah, I mean it's still happening, but it's like it's different. It's just still like it's just changed.
What was the biggest turning point for you then in bringing you to where you are, in terms of, I guess, your position, but also coming away from the stencils into the very multi-dimensional, multifaceted practice that many people that will be listening to, all of you guys, will know you for? Because I think actually, if I'm honest, I think a lot of people that would be hearing this, I think for many of them, they would be like, oh shit, they did stencils.
Yeah,
Because-
that's a really good point.
Really, I think people still like know this as like I don't know.
I know. I think,
don't know, man.
I think people are knowing you guys more for the last like couple years. This body of work seems like it's put you guys into like a kind of a different category now. And I think I think when the stencil stuff, I think that actually would be like, oh, that's where they came from. I think this new body of work and stuff you continue to work on is
like
the famous stuff in a way.
So what was that turning point then? Where was it?
I mean, we were kind of done with the stencils because we're I don't know, like there's a few different reasons that there's like we did a stencil for so many years, like we would spend like weeks like just cutting stencils, and we were kind of like it was just kind of like we wanted to be like we've done different weird stuff too, like in between, so like we always liked like to change, like also even in our stencil work we've tried all different type of things, like multi-layer, like single layer, like this, that, like we always wanted to change. So I think like we can't just do the same thing, like we
Yeah, we always like to experiment.
Sasana does not share the mic.
No, we always like experimenting.
This is hard. It's hard to share the mic.
yeah
Like they're gonna have to do like a fucking like McCartney Lennon where they share the same mic and sing
Oh
into
my
it.
God,
It's
we're
like
there.
it's hard to do that.
We always like experimenting, and it's like for us working is more fun to just. Now right now we're working with different materials, objects, and it's more fun like because every object have potential to do something, and we're learning. There's a lot of like potential. So
but just like we start with something new, like just kind of like we said this like objects, like kind of mix these together, and like every time we work on something and something else comes out of it, like we come up with different ideas.
Well, I could have the timeline wrong here, and I know you always get mad at me for not doing enough pre-research, Doug. I know you do. I feel like there was like it might have been Norway, it might have been the land art sculptures that you guys did there that seemed to be kind of like, I remember seeing that for the first time. Like, wait, that's Icy Sot did that? Like I was surprised because it seemed like it had been a change. Was that one of the kind of like breakthroughs? Was like when I think that was in like northern Norway, correct?
Yeah, at Nord, like we did the tree with the plastic bag, so that kind of like. Yeah, I mean, also, like, I think traveling and meeting a lot of different artists, like, we, like, just, like, getting to know, like, Fabi and Kush, like, some artists who did a lot of interventions, and, like, it kind of, like, we got inspirations, like, okay, like,
Brad
like,
Downey,
or John, I don't know, a lot of artists, we got inspiration, and we just decided to just, be more, like, have more fun, like, and try new things, and...
So how does it work for you guys then? How's your creative process? Because it's not just when I speak to you guys, I almost speak to you as a single unit. You feel like you're so interwoven in how you talk to me and how you've ever described your practice and things like that. So how does it work then for you guys being two very different people, but you end up with this collective vision? How does that work for you?
I don't know, we just...
because we start everything together, so just like we kind of have the same mindset and we have the same taste, so we just like it's working together is the best way, and we share our ideas, and it always helps. We drink together and we brainstorm, we come up with ideas, like we share, and like
one comes up with idea, and like we share them, and we kind of wow, like oh, maybe we can do this, and like we kind of add to it, and like suddenly something really like something comes out, and we're like, okay, we have to do it. And then we go through okay, how are we gonna make this happen? And then we think about those, and like.
Has it always been like that? Have you guys always been so interconnected and so like unified in your vision? Because I'm gonna say this kind of relatively confidently, I don't think my sister's listening to this podcast, but we could not be further.
Same thing with my sister.
We couldn't be further from our you know,
I love you, sis, but we're not
artistic
working
vision.
together.
Oh my god, yeah, I love my sister to bits.
We're not working
I'd
together.
kill for her. But I have killed for her. But we're super, you know, we just wouldn't do that. So has it just always been like that for you guys, or was it something that kind of came later after?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of always like that, but also like we have like working for 13 years together. Like we've like find out a way that, you know, like sometimes, you know, we don't really talk to each other like in the studio when we're working. Like we only like talk when we're brainstorming. Like we don't really talk about our like I don't know, like because I think we don't need to talk to each other. We just kind of know like what's going on.
What's the age difference?
5 years? Yeah.
Doesn't
matter.
No, I know. I mean, quite clearly, it doesn't matter, and that's amazing because it's like it's. And it was funny because I was talking with Evan earlier, and he's like, "Oh, we're meeting twins later," and I was like, I had to say to him, I was like, "Dude, you know they're not twins. You know they're just brothers," and it was like,
no, it's because in my head I had like a brain. The thing where it was like, I was thinking of Jamie, I was thinking of how Nazem, I was thinking of all these.
I think maybe, but I think also it is because whenever we've hung out, it's like you guys sound, you know, you're interwoven, which is so rare.
It goes, you know, it was like skateboarding. It goes back skateboarding because when he was 12 years old and I was like, 18, I don't know, like 19, whatever. We used to hang out together, you know, we were the same interests. I used to love skateboarding. And I used to always go out with him and take pictures, videos, like, you know.
Like he was a big support like for me, and like I started a lot of things younger than I supposed to because I used to hang out with him and his friends. Like
because you're the cool older brother.
Since like.
I mean, would your parents say the same thing? Like, oh, they've always been kind of on the same kind of wavelength.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
That's the first thing they disagreed on.
Yeah. I don't know. Yes. I guess, yeah. I mean, they've seen like, you know, being brothers, being kids. Like we have had our like fights before, but it doesn't happen. Like,
what's an Icy Sot fight like?
I was just gonna ask that.
Do you guys rage at each other? Is it like
Okay, I guess it's like you know
like if somebody's not doing good enough work in the studio, is it like?
No, I mean there's always like,
hey,
you know,
bro,
it's like
with
your best friends, like whatever happens, like normally, like sometimes just like, you know, like just little arguments. That's like not sometimes. It's like rarely. Yeah, it happens. Like it's normal.
Yeah.
No, of course it's normal. It's okay. You don't need to convince me. So maybe talk me through some of your work at the moment then, because you guys are you're kind of jumping from, like we talked about, you've jumped from stencils, you've moved into objects that you've acquired. I was particularly interested and what I fully believe was, I think, just one of the most stunning projects of last year was the crumpled up dollar bill in Wall Street. I think it was a dollar bill. Yeah, it was a dollar.
Yeah.
So how do you look for these ideas? What is it that you think about the found objects that you're also acquiring, like the security wire, the barbed wire, these elements? What is it that you're looking for when you're sort of navigating that space?
Yeah, I think like when, you know, like since we started using specific objects to talk about a specific issue, like we find out that it's like more powerful if you're using an actual fence, like making a work about immigration than like painting the fence. It's like way more effective, like because it's like everybody knows, like, you know, everybody can see it. Like it's just also visually, it's the actual thing that the people use like to divide people, or the barbed wire, like, or the simple thing. I think like it's more impactful if like when you're using the material that's like, you know, you want to talk about the specific object, then rather than just painting it on a wall or painting it like massive, big or small or whatever. That's I like we see that feedback too. Like people connected it with more than just
I don't know the right answer to this, but do you guys think your audience and perhaps institutions started taking you guys more seriously when you started doing like these kind of more prominent sculpture work? Like, because I feel like once you start getting into sculpture, there's something very serious about that, and like permanent and kind of like there just feels like there's like this kind of I just feel like the institutional art world loves a sculpture. Like there's something kind of like powerful about that. Have you noticed a change in the way people have approached you guys for work, or is it kind of the same?
Of course, like we've got like we've been into shows that that's like not street artists, like in different mix that it's like it's nice, like I mean,
there's no other,
so like we don't think it's like really like necessarily important like to be in a different category, like whatever like you're making. And but also like it's kind of new, so we're still kind of, I don't know, it's kind of, if you Google Icy Sot, it just shows up a lot of like old works, whatever, and like not the new works, whatever. But we're totally like last 3 years kind of, we're not doing totally different
Well,
work.
it's been a very rapid transformation, and what I found particularly interesting was how you ended up linked into a Banksy show in Amsterdam.
That's right. We saw it together.
We
I
went.
forget, yes,
we went together.
Yeah, that's right.
That was
Okay,
maybe
okay.
where the podcast was born.
I
Who
think
knows?
so. Yeah. That's
So
funny.
we were there, and in Amsterdam you had it was connected into a museum in Amsterdam which was showing Banksy work. 2 floors in there. It was all Icy and Sot, baby. How did that kind of? I'm gonna take that last line back.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a Banksy show. It was Banksy show in upstairs, and we had like our own.
Yeah, you had two.
But there
you
was
had 2 floors.
There was only 2 artists in that museum, and it was Banksy and you guys. Like that was a.
Yeah, that must have had a huge impact for you. Not necessarily in terms of how the art world was viewing you, but more so how you were opened up to an audience that was like, we went, and it was, we went on like a Tuesday afternoon,
packed.
and there was lines outside, and that's a big footfall that's coming into an art show.
Big tourist destination, right? So it was really nice, like to have that opportunity, because like there's a lot of viewers, like people who go see it. They don't know us, they don't know about street art, they don't know pretty much about anything. But it's like really nice to have like this, like kind of type of viewers that are like normal people, and they get to see something. And we actually got like really good feedback. Like sometimes people just emailing us like this long text that how much they love the show, or how much they like love this whatever. Like it was really special. Like we never, but also it was really nice to have like a lot of different people like getting to see the work like in like during a month. Like
It was all the pieces from the beginning, the evolution of all the pieces we've done from 2006 to 2000.
yeah,
Right.
I think it was almost just after the sculpture stuff become
Yes.
more prominent, because it was largely used
and
stencil.
we had a little bit of everything there. Like so it kind of showed like when we were there, I went to see the show. I was like, wow, like one of our from like earliest works until like the last pieces we made like in the studio last month. Like to see them together was kind of like big change. Like it was nice to see all that together. Like how much we've grown. Like
And in terms of artistic progression, I think actually, I don't want to, I'm not fucking out here to, polish your bellends, but you are definitely out there. That's an,
but I didn't get that. What happened?
Oh, that's a good line.
oh, that's a
good.
new one for this podcast.
Man, that
But
was
I
good.
don't think, in terms of where you've taken it, I don't think there's many other people that have shifted gear in the same trajectory that you guys have done. And I thought actually what that museum was doing was reminding for, for many people that walked through there was like, actually, it came from something as simple as a stencil. And I think people forget that a lot when they see muralists, when they see people going out doing all this thing. It's like, okay, I can't do that. I'm not connected to that. But when I went in there, it was like, actually, look, all you need is this piece of cardboard and you can do this thing.
It kind of like reminded me of like why Martin Reed always is so big on the stencil, because he loves talking about just that simple kind of like no, just we can start with the stencil and we can go from there, and it broadens out. I actually remember that show being like, it's like, oh yeah, Martin is right about that kind of history of the stencil.
Do you feel comfort then in simplicity? Do you think that there's something nice about just being, like you talked about with the found objects or with other, everyday objects? Do you just feel that there's a comfort in there that you can manipulate and play with?
Yeah, I guess like I'm we still like we're doing different stuff right now, like with sculpture, but you still like keep that like simplicity in our work. To have it simple, like people get the idea right away. They don't need to, yeah.
It's like still
Mostly,
it's,
it's still-
the one thing that is still the same. It's
Like things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but simple doesn't necessarily mean it's not extremely intelligent. It's just that you guys find really good ideas to express without having to like, I don't know, like make it so complicated. Like I think sometimes people think like if people can understand it, it's like, oh well, that's a little too simple. It's like, no, it's very complex ideas you're talking about. You just have found really good ways of clearly communicating that. It seems like.
yeah. I think like I think I think we also think simple. Like like what's good, what's but like just thinking simple, and our ideas are like then we have simpler ideas. But yeah, like our work has changed so much during so many years. One thing I think like the most similar thing has been the same is they're still kind of simple. Like someone can get something from it maybe, but we're also like just trying more and different things too. Like it's not always like that. So
Do you feel that especially going back to that kind of show that you were, because for me you almost navigate that line of being an artist, like a comedian's comedian, where it's like if you look at I don't know, like Louis C.K. He's like a comedian's comedian. I mean, until he did the thing. Maybe a bad example, terrible example. Okay, use anyone else that's not been got.
He had some funny parts.
Okay,
yes,
well,
yes. He talked about a lot of things too.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that artists in the art world often suffers from or falters at is being able to break through and talk to, like you said earlier, just real people, like people that aren't necessarily following the nuances of the art scene, following the trends and where things are going. Do you think is that something that crosses your mind at all on how you can speak to other people that are not necessarily interested in art?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like it started from there for us. Like whatever we made, it was like all about that. Like for normal people, so I think that's kind of like we always think about like all type of people, like whatever the crises are, whatever the things happening. So it's kind of like we just care, like we think about those things, and like these are the issues that like we really.
Especially when you do like the public art, when you're doing sculpture, so it's like for normal people, like pass by everyday people, like passing and like they could be like they even not interested in art, but they see something and they get something from it. It's like.
But what's interesting is that with public sculptures, like a lot of times we're subjected to like a Jeff Koons or a Richard Serra, where you're kind of like as well.
One more beer.
No, it's just that Jeff Koons, Richard Serra. I guess I'm just talking about sometimes public sculpture is almost so abstract that it kind of makes people feel intimidated. Where I think you guys are trying to make it a little bit something that people can actually maybe kind of get a story out of.
Yeah, I guess more sculptures they were like with the city like or they're not necessarily like the political, but they're more like mostly about like I don't know, design, consumer beautification. Yeah. But right now, I guess like after Ai Weiwei started like doing sculptures in New York City, like he did some of the sculpture art, like like with messages, with political,
Yeah, I kind of feel like you guys would lean way more towards the Ai Weiwei kind of experience of public art, as opposed to just the public art for sort of this grandiose sort of like it.
Shiny.
Yeah. I don't mean I'm not.
Here's a balloon dog.
Yeah, well, and Koons and Richard Serra as examples, they're great. It's just that it's a different thing. That's all, and I think that's a great example. Ai Weiwei is like he's trying to kind of do sort of a different version of what public art can be in that kind of grand tradition of it, and it's fascinating that you guys are kind of going in that path.
Can you maybe talk me through? Because I am genuinely really interested in this one, and I mentioned it earlier, the Wall Street dollar bill project. I casually mentioned it, but I think for people that maybe haven't heard what necessarily that entailed or what it was, I think I'd be really interested to know how you came up with it, the backstory, and more importantly, like what that experience was like standing there
And how heavy
doing
was that
that
fucking thing?
doing
Yeah,
that
yeah.
doing
So
that.
simple. Like I think like a lot of people don't know how simple it was.
and that's why.
Yeah. So like actually 1 year before that, like we had the idea 1 year before we did the piece. We painted this mural in Coney Islands. Like we used the dollar bill and we had the dollar bill like giant dollar bill stencil and like we did this piece like the Last Supper like with a lot of leaders from different currencies that we put on. But we kept the stencil of the dollar. We're like we have this massive stencils of this dollar that we can use for something else, and we came up with the idea.
We had the idea. We said, okay, we should keep that stencil, and then maybe we can because it's like a big stencil, like big as stencil. So we kept it, and then 1 year later we said, okay, let's put this stencil again and just like crumble it and put it in Wall Street because
So
it was just.
we basically painted.
We
on
had
it.
that idea for almost I don't know, 6 months, but we were lazy to just do that, paint the stencil
No, there's few things. Like our studio was not that big enough, that flat to put that massive thing. So we just asked a friend, like, okay, use their space. We painted in a day, got dry, and we basically rolled it and we took it in a Subway. It was a massive roll of paper, and we in Subway, and we went there Sunday. So like the businesses are not open because we don't have permission, whatever. But we also didn't, it's our last years of going through our paperwork, so we didn't want to do something super crazy, so we basically crumpled it there and took bunch of pictures.
Yeah, but how did it not? It was able to stay.
It was big. It was a
You're
thick.
just as bad.
Yeah, but it was able to. I always thought that could you just kind of kick it and it would have moved over? But no, it was heavy enough to stay.
It was a
Yeah, it was
big
heavy enough.
thing.
Yeah, it was heavy enough. Okay,
It was a photograph. Yeah, it was a big, thick
Yeah, okay,
paper.
alright.
So when you crumple it, it will just stay like that.
For some reason, I always thought it weighed 10 pounds, and I was like, all right, it's how did that thing not float?
I thought it looked like it had weight behind it. I thought it looked like a heavy object.
Yeah, I mean, some people thought we sculpted that and we painted that. No, it's just if we put a stencil on paper and we crumpled it. That's it.
How long were you able to keep it there? Did it just stay?
Oh,
there?
it was for until we took our pictures. It was there until we were taking picture for half an hour, 30 minutes, and then we just take it, we put it in the trash.
Wow.
Yeah, we just throw it away.
Wait, hold on.
We didn't want to be in trouble.
Yeah, I know, but also, did you feel a little pressure to get the right photo? We were like, shit, we better get this right.
We got the right photo. So we knew. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I like that confidence.
Yeah.
We got the right
Yeah,
photo, baby.
exactly. I love
We got it.
Documenting is for our work is really important because especially recently, our work is sometimes it's
Super temporary.
yeah, but also it's in nature. We place it somewhere that it's kind of completes the work. So we need to get the right picture from it. But also we started documenting our work since when we started because there was no street art blogs, street art photographers, nothing, no one. So we had to and they were gonna be gone. So we had to document everything. So I think so from the beginning we always documented.
So you think in your head when you're doing something like this, you're thinking about that image maybe more so than the experience of the people that are going to be walking past it, because you know that that's going to have the impact.
Yeah, because
I wish it was there. It stayed there for at least maybe one day but that's not that's not
Do you-
possible. Yeah.
Is the temporary nature of it something that ever annoys you in any way? You think I would like that longer, but you're just comfortable if it stays, it goes, it's fine. This is 3 months of work. This is a year of planning, whatever it might be. You're like, cool.
No, they
I'll
were
let it
throwing
go.
out their trash, and they literally
They did.
brought it to Wall Street. I love it. That's the best thing ever.
no, we I think if it's always nice if it's stays longer, but at the end it's just everything it's gonna be temporary. Even if you put something permanently, it's just gonna you don't know what's gonna happen in the street. But yeah, I think also nowadays with the blogs, social media, more people see it online than they see it in person because we had a piece in Times Square for a month. I think a lot of people missed it. Nobody really because it was it's in the sky, but there's a lot of it needed more of a horizon than a lot of tall buildings. But I was yeah, it's middle of Times Square and there's so many bunch of million. I don't know how many people.
I think it's quite busy.
And for the most part, it's not New Yorkers. It's it's this weird.
Touristic,
Yeah, it's very touristic. Because we did that project in Times Square, and it it's just funny because it's like you're like, wait, who am I actually talking to here? Like you're kind of talking to like the world because it's like every tourist goes to Times Square for some photo that you're kind of not quite sure why. You're like, yeah, it's a bunch of billboards. Like it's kind of weird, but like it's actually kind of a fun place to make art in a weird way.
Yeah, I mean, we actually never went to see it. Like, we installed it at night, 12 at night, and we left. And like another like at night, like 1 month later, we went at 12 and took it out. That's it. I never even.
Go back there.
No, I mean, we just put it there, and yeah. So I didn't. I don't know. Like, I don't think a lot of people noticed it actually. There's way more bigger screens than this like transparent kind of flag.
So what do you guys have in store for us now?
I mean, we have a show.
Because you work in projects. You work in not necessarily projects, but you work in series. You know, it's like this will be the Fence series. This will be the other series.
Yeah, we don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you don't call them that. Looking at their faces just now, they don't call them that. They don't call them series. I've called them series. But
it's
they
kind of
seem to be
series.
they
Yeah,
seem to be chapters.
Yes, it
They
is.
seem to be chapters in material that you're using. You have finished with the Fence stuff.
No, we just did a piece. It's up. Like we haven't like we just did a piece in like
Venue, yeah.
this like in the outdoor space like in Brooklyn.
So that's something you're going to engage with, and then what is it that you're navigating next? What can we? I want to see what we're looking forward to.
I mean, we just
Because you just come up with this contraption, the face contraption.
Oh, these are
yeah. This is like something like so those tool like colored still like.
Can you maybe describe what it is? Because I
no
call it series
so
and chapters,
we,
and that went down like
started-
that went down like a still shit.
Let the artists explain their work, Doug.
So I mean, everything. Yeah, okay. So everything started with this like we used to. There's an antique store by our studio, so every day we used to pass by. So we saw these shovels, rusted shovels there, and we said, "Oh, what we can do with these shovels?" And we just like, okay, let's buy these shovels, and we bought the shovels, and we said maybe we can
$5
do.
each.
So we bought these shovels, and we said like, we thought about okay, these shovels, just like hardworking people, like people works on this like every day, and then we said, okay, maybe we can cut these shovels as a profile, and take a picture of some people working on the streets, and we like cut it out, like the shape of profile. And then later on, we saw okay, we did some.
We find like some rusty materials from the same place. Like it was like little like super rusty like scraping thing. Like we just did a portrait like as a small piece. Like we just did bunch of objects like as a with the working class hero series. Like we use different objects and we're like this is scraper. Maybe we can just get a new one and cut it out and kind of paint with it. So like we did the small one and then we're like, okay. Let's buy big sheets of steel and cut it out and play with it. So we've been just playing with it basically, and I don't know. We're just playing like we're doing more and more work. So we have a show that's like half of those paintings and half a sculpture, and we kind of want to continue that in the side.
What is it that you look for then when you come to do a show? Because the museum show was, almost like a retrospective. I think it was mainly older work.
Yeah.
So what is it that you look for when you go to do that, that marking of that chapter, as it were?
Basically, like, we're just experimenting with different things, like with this new painting, but we just want to show it, so, like, see what happens, like, what's the reaction are. So, like, our show, like, we're gonna have a show, it's, like, half of these pieces and half the sculptures we're doing. We're also working on more paintings, like, we're planning to another show this year. I mean, the good thing about this, like, now that we have the tool, it's like faster to produce work. Like, and I mean, we like kind of like start on we roll like stretch canvas on our studio wall and we work on things. Sometimes we do a piece and like we're not happy with it at all, and because it's just also like when you're using a bigger tool, it's like we don't have so much control how it's gonna look like. So sometimes we have to do a few times to get the right one that we like happy with.
I like that idea of playing. I mean, we did RevoltCon before, and he has that same kind of idea with just, it's not about perfection, it's about the imperfections that you end up with that just gives it this kind of manual feel, this kind of real authenticity.
Yeah, I mean, that's but we wanna have that in the side and also do the other projects we're doing. Like, I mean, we actually wanna like, so like we're traveling. Like we gonna be in Greece next month. Like we making some works in the refugee camp, and like we started this. Like we wanted to do more than just making installations this time. Like something that can kind of directly like help or we think it's like we had this idea of buying lots of plants and making like bunch of like vegetable gardens for the people there because we love plants. We have so many plants. It makes us happy, and so we had this print release to like, and we raised like good money. It's like we can make like now like 2 huge vegetable gardens in a refugee camp. We're gonna go there and like buy so many plants for people there. So like we're trying to just like sometimes do projects that we can actually do more than just like art, like to help directly. Like,
Is that something you want to engage in more and just to become almost synonymous with your name? So when it's Icy Sot, it's like, you guys are constantly involved in that kind of
I mean, that
more of an outreach?
has been our goal. Like eventually,
never had
some
but because we never had the chance to go to the refugee camp, but with this, like, we met these people in like Italy, and we had the connection, so we can actually go in there and like help the people because it's not easy to go to the camp.
Even as political asylum seekers?
Yeah, you need to know someone, but this is very exciting. We're super excited to do this project. Yeah.
Do you guys, have you noticed that you get asked to do these kind of projects because of your own status of like being political, like political asylum? Like, is there like when you're asked to do projects, does it kind of lean more? I mean,
we proposed the idea for these people. We knew they work with the camp. They kind of, and they're like.
if they said no to you, they'd be like kind of bullshit. I
No, but I like to answer that question is actually yes, because like there was this show at a church about like building a house without walls. Like they invited us because I guess like from the work that we've been doing because of I think so.
I find this really funny then because I see you in that thread, but then of course you just did this thing with Vans recently. So how did you have that conversation? Because is this the first time you've worked with a major brand like that?
Yeah.
And there must have been a conversation that was like, okay, we're associated more in this world of activism, and now we're going to suddenly dip our toe into this, this world of corporate America, as it were. So what was that conversation, and what was it that kind of tipped you over the edge to say, look, I think this is a good idea?
So I mean, when they reached out to us, they actually asked like, they were interested in like the works we've been doing recently. That this in nature, it's about like refugees. Like it's basically so it was, and then we like talked with them. Like we were like okay, like, and it was something that they basically just wanted to make a video about like what we were doing rather than they asking us like let's do this. Like we basically, did like our work, like the usual work we always make, and like it was really nice actually. Like it was a really good film crew that we got to work with them and
Yeah, it looked
together.
beautiful. It looked stunning.
So it was nice, but also I think like Vans, like it's something that we had always like kind of connection with like in skateboarding, like wearing skateboard, and they support artists like skateboarders. It's like kind of a similar culture.
Hey Vans, you want to sponsor this
hold on a
full time?
Wait, hold on a second. Next week they're sponsoring the Radio Juxtapoz podcast. So this is good. This is a good plug right now.
God, I swear, listeners, I swear this hasn't been paid for.
No, it's not.
This is some way of subliminally getting you to buy Vans.
I was gonna shout out an opposing magazine in this podcast because we did a little piece in Playboy magazine, and I have to give a shout out to Liz, the editor of Playboy, who really brought that shit home.
How did that feel being in Playboy?
I mean, it was amazing. It's like it's really amazing feeling like people ask for like to have it like when they need something like like political work, something like they had this issue, this speech issue. So like it was really nice, like to have like they're not like like they were showing our like work about like borders, and it's nice. Like there's different audience who I guess they buy Playboy magazine, and
I assume it's a different audience.
No, I mean,
you're used to.
and that was the thing. It's like it was really cool that they like all of our ideas that we threw into that, they were like not confining us to be like, well, you have to gear it towards a certain audience. They're like, no, go where you want to go with it.
I mean, it's really nice that these like big like whatever, like they're trying to like also talk about the things happening in the world, and it's really amazing that it's like kind of new way for like a lot of people to kind of know about this issues or like
I mean, of course, it's it tends to lean a little on the liberal side. It's not like this isn't like a Rupert Murdoch owned publication or anything. So
for sure.
Shout out Playboy.
don't shout out News Corp.
Lads, thank you.